Welcome to today's Women's Collective Office Hour. My name is Danielle Moon. I'm the Director of Programs and Community Engagement at APAICS. It stands for the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. For those of you who are new to our programming, our Women's Collective core mission is to encourage more Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander women to run for office. So we have a series of office hours like this to serve as a resource to encourage more ANHPI's women to run for office and be supportive of each other. So I'm really excited to hear from our amazing panelists today who are ready to talk about their lived experiences as Pacific Islander women running for office, and they can share their challenges and successes that they've had in campaigns. So before we introduce the panelists, I just want to remind everyone that this session is being recorded and a recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you know folks who would have wanted to attend but couldn't, feel free to share our link to your networks. So I'll jump right in to introduce our panelists today. So we have Ana Petero. She is the Fairfield-Suisun Governing Board Trustee of Area 6. Next, we have Manufou Liaiga-Anoa'i. She serves as the Jefferson Elementary School District Governing Board Trustee, as well as APAICS board members. So thank you so much for your leadership with APAICS. Last but not least, we have Mele Latu. She serves as the Ravenswood City School District Governing Board of Trustees. With that, I'll have our panelists briefly introduce themselves. So we can go in reverse order. So we can start with Mele, then Manufou, and Ana. So Mele, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you. Greetings, everyone. Malolele. My name is Mele Latu. I currently sit on the Ravenswood City School District Governing Board of Trustees, and I've been serving as the board president over the last 2 years, and I'm a longtime East Palo Alto native. Thank you. I'll kick it off to Manufou.
Yeah, talofa and good afternoon. I am Manufou Liaiga-Anoa'i. I have been serving on the Jefferson Elementary School District Governing Board as a board trustee and past president for the last 7 years. I jumped into the fire this past January 18th. Earlier, at the top of 22, I am currently running for Daly City Council. And I'm excited to share this time with these fearless leaders that I'm happy to call sisters. And I will kick it off to Honorable Trustee Ana Petero.
Thank you, Trustee Anoa'i. Bulavinaka, Malolele. Hello, everyone. I think we've covered the 3 South Pacific Islanders of Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji. I am on the Fairfield-Suisun Unified School District Governing Board, Trustee Area 6. I am the newest elected person. I ran in 2016 and lost by 72 votes and ran again in 2020 and was successful. And I'm just so thrilled to be on the board. I'm originally from Fiji. I've lived in this country for 46 years, and I'm looking forward to this wonderful discussion. I'm heading it right back to you, Danielle, Ms. Moon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your introductions. So we'll jump right into questions for you all. So as Pasefika women, what advice would you give to other women with similar backgrounds as they navigate running for office? So feel free to jump in, whoever would like to start. Molly, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start first. We're waiting. As the newest member, I found, because my colleagues live in the Bay Area where there is a larger Pacific Islander population, I live right in between San Francisco and Sacramento. So we're in a more rural area. So the advice that I would give would be to network. I think that's so fundamentally important. I was so fortunate when I ran the first time, the second time, I was introduced to some of the other Pacific Islanders who are already on school boards. And I found them through different networks within our community. And what I find most important is that because there's so few of us here in the community, I look at what are the other similarities do we have within the community? And I found party affiliation was very helpful. Because once you found out who your party is, then you have so many more resources to tap into in terms of how to navigate running for office. Because many of us don't have role models. There are 3 of us here. And I would imagine, I don't know how many Pacific Islander women or men were in positions of elected office before us. And so the few that we have, we network. And if we can't find them, I think party affiliation is really, really helpful in terms of navigating and networking, and find what you have in common within your community, because you can always start there. So that would be what I would do in terms of navigating for office, is navigating. And if you can't find people within your community who are of the same cultural background, then look for party affiliation, because it's really helpful, especially those of us here in California. I think we're fortunate that way.
Just to chime in, thank you, Honorable Petero, for that. I think my position's a little bit different because I'd be considered more of a community kid. So I kind of grew up in the social justice, activism, kind of family and network where, at 6 years old, we were, protesting against, the drug epidemic that was happening here in East Palo Alto. So I think from my perspective, what I would tell anyone in a similar position as mine would be to have a moment where you really ask yourself, are you ready to step forward? I think with my perspective, historically, I was always behind the scene. I was more into the logistical aspects of making things happen. And it wasn't until the elders, came up to me and they were just telling me, they were like, this is your time. And so I had to take a moment to really ask myself and ground myself to really think and be very intentional with moving forward, because it can get really messy with some of the stuff that people will say about you, or newspapers will allege about you, and people will attack you on things that can be very sensitive to yourself. And so I think really finding the courage to commit, and then once you commit, really putting yourself out there and going 100% forward. And then I'll be like Honorable Petero and reaching out to my close network, having them feed into me and also pour into them why I want to run. And then from there, building that foundation so that once you do announce and you are telling people, you have a network and just, a village that supports you and will pray for you and will be encouraged, they'll continue to encourage you, whether that's through texts or, emails or anything. But these were kind of what came to mind when I heard that question.
Yeah, great insight. I agree with both sentiments that have been shared. I will say for me that what has benefited me well is really understanding my why. I had to be very clear on why I was jumping in the fire. And if I wasn't clear, then in my mind, that was telling me that it was not my time. So really getting that self-clarity and that self-accountability and understanding the reason why you are entering into this race. And there's a self-interest piece attached to that, understanding what your goal and what your contribution is in the work and to the community, and knowing the landscape, knowing your base, really developing your core group, because those are the folks that are going to keep you anchored and rooted on the most difficult days, such as Mele had alluded to. When someone decides to come at your character and post something on social media or create a narrative that in the depth of your soul is untrue, I will say, make sure you have your core group. Outside of that, build your base. Understand that while we are Pasefika women, we need to show the diversity that is reflected in the communities that we want to represent. So build your base, not just diversity from our ethnic backgrounds, but a diversity of thought, understanding the issues, getting out and creating listening sessions and tours so that people can see the genuineness of your wanting to serve them. You know, politics are politics. We come from that. We sit with our chiefs, with our family. We sit in that messiness of politics, but we understand the root of it. We understand where humility comes in, where the servant leadership comes in, and also the respect when we decide that we are on different sides, that we will always communicate with respect. Those are pieces of advice that I share because they have benefited me in my years of serving, not just as a public elected, but also as a community leader.
Yeah, I love that you all touched on the importance of, really valuing your support base and network, because you can't, none of us can do this alone. If you are running for office, it's not a one-person thing. It's a lot of the teamwork. And Manufou, you mentioned your family and friends. Those are very important resources, as well as, understanding your support base. And the why you mentioned that, you need to have a good reason why it's important for you and your community to have leaders that look like us. So I appreciate everyone's insights on that. So Mele, I know you mentioned about, that public scrutiny aspect of it. And I think we can all agree that ANHPI women are always more likely to get more scrutiny and criticism. And so I think there are a lot of difficulties and challenges that come with that. So, as public officials, what advice would you have regarding, the best way to overcome these challenges and, mitigate it as much as you can? And kind of what advice would you have to, and how would you, prioritize which ones to respond to and which ones aren't, not necessarily should be prioritized to give a response?
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, that's okay.
But
Mele, start with you.
yeah, in the question, having thick skin, you really do. People will attack you left, right, from even friends will, turn to foes sometimes. And I think what I was able to do, it will create a very close network of 10 to 15 people. And I told them ahead of time, I said, I would really usher them in and say, I need you to be my rock. Like, and this is what it's going to entail. Like, when I am being attacked by press, I'm going to reach out to you. I might complain to you. I might just need someone to call at 2 a.m. in the morning. Like, would you be that person for me? And of course, all these people, they said yes, of course. And they've really held me through the last 2.5 years, because it hasn't been easy. And, during my last run, I did have some health concerns, and it became a comment in the press. And during a time when I was, trying to get better, reading those comments were very toxic to what I was trying to do. And so for me, I learned that you can't constantly read every single negative comment. You can't take certain words to heart. I realized that we have a lot of keyboard warriors out there, but I realized that I let them in when I give them that time or that vulnerability. And so I try not to read too much into that. But there are points in time where there will be stuff that's written about me that I know I have to respond to. And that's when they attack my character, or they attack specific things that I know aren't true. And so when it comes to that, I address it head on. I either go directly to the source, or I'll respond back to whatever news publication. But for the most part, I think find your network, make sure that they are people that will understand what that entails. And also depend on your family as well. My family has had to go through things that they didn't sign up for, but they continue to encourage and just feed into me. Alici's on here. She's one of my people who I reach out to when I really need help and support. And so, yeah, I just say, just stay optimistic. Manufou highlighted your why. Um, and it's the kids and the young people in this community. I want them to have a better life. I want them to have the life that they deserve. And I know that my little sacrifice and the time, though it's a lot of my time, a lot of my emotions, I know that one day a kid will turn around and say thank you for the service and the sacrifice. So, yeah.
Hello,
Thank
everyone.
you, Mele. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a question?
Please, no, go ahead, Manufou. If you would like to reflect on what Mele has shared, I can reflect after you. It's okay.
Thank you, Sarah. I wanted to thank you, Mele, for sharing how vulnerable this space is, and how it impacts those we love most. And from my experience is initially I'd have a knee-jerk reaction, and I'm going to respond to this. But what I have found is that I'd had to breathe through the process, and allow myself to read the words that have been written and or spoken of me, and the work that I believe that I'm doing. And through that process, I have found that it has allowed me to come up with a better response, more thoughtful, that was not reactionary and emotional. And I share that because I really want to advise people. There's just a lot of negativity, and people want to see the rise. They want to get that from you. And what I love that reminds me is when Michelle Obama said, our former first lady, was, when they go low, we go high. And we need to be good at demonstrating that. And when we prioritize, I think we get so many, we're inundated as electeds with so much information and requests for information, and also for people coming at us for a variety of reasons. But I always advise everyone to just take a minute and not allow your emotions to get the better of you, because then you're giving maybe a different version of yourself and not the best version of yourself. And I've just learned that from practice.
Thank you both for excellent responses. And I think that's so important because we're human beings after all, right? And there's a saying that says, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And that is so wrong. We used to say that when we were children. And the older you get, the more you realize words do hurt because they have an impact and they have staying power, right? And so just to add to what my colleagues were saying, and in terms of navigating through public office, in addition, just a short addition to that is the paperwork. It's tedious, right? It's one thing, it's important to get our networks together and to be grounded. It is another thing to go through just the process of getting elected. Those things are the most tedious, is that you have deadlines, because that's what this country is about. We are a country of laws, and so you have to follow certain deadlines because of transparency. And so we need, because we work for the public and we owe them, we have to show our work, which brings me to what, public scrutiny. What I found, I'm a college professor and I'm a very good writer. And so I found that I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. And what I've found is op-eds are a friend of ours. And so I read Barack Obama's Dreams of My Father and His Audacity of Hope. And what he did when he became a public official was he had in his schedule writing op-eds. So I think being proactive and writing the narrative before you're critiqued, I think is so important. That way you're ready for it. You already know what the answers are going to be because you've put yourself out there. I'll give you a couple of examples. When we had the critical race theory that was all the rage among certain groups of people, because they started attacking school boards. Some of our school boards here were inundated with people saying, you're teaching critical race theory. What I did was I thought, how do we get to a large group of people in a short amount of time? I thought, write an op-ed. So I wrote an op-ed on critical race theory, background of critical race theory, what critical race theory is, where it's taught and where it's not taught. We've had 2 people in a year and a half come to our governing board meeting to talk about critical race theory, and haven't been inundated. I wrote another op-ed on cancel culture because they talked about, they're trying to cancel us. Like, let's talk about who's being canceled, right? So our voices are so important. And I think when you run for office and when you become an elected official, you can't be shy. And you cannot be thin-skinned because people are going to talk about you, and you're probably not going to like it. But what I found too is that, remember, like as Trustee Anoa'i said, know your why, because once you know your why, all of that is just like water off a duck's back, because you know to whom you are beholden. You're beholden to the students, you're beholden to your constituents, and you're beholden to all of them, not just the ones who support you, not just the ones who elected you, but for everybody. And once you know that, you have it's some kind of inner strength that you have because you know for whom you're fighting. My experience on the board has been, in terms of the negativity, has come from the adults, and there is such a thing as adult bullying. They're not used to our voices being in public because they haven't heard it before, right? So they don't know what our tone is. They don't know what our rate is. They don't know what our contextual backgrounds are. What their frame of reference is what the United States educational system, or what the education or the United States laws are based on. So it is based on white middle class, superiority. Everybody else has to conform in order to be successful, in order to be represented. So what we do in terms of navigating is not only knowing our why, but standing up for the voices that we believe need to be heard. And I think that's so important, and fighting against those and calling them out and owning what it is who we are, right? It's like, I'm a Pacific Islander. I own that. And whatever I say, and whatever I say is in defense or in support of children. And so that is what my why is. I'm always going to fight for that. So whatever noise that comes at me, I ignore that, and I become proactive in terms of writing down the narrative before somebody creates a narrative for you. I learned this from this great movie called 8 Mile with Eminem. And at the end of that movie, the last scene, his friend Rabbit says to him, when you get up and you do this battle, so-and-so is going to, Clarence, what are you going to do when Clarence says this and this and this about you? What Eminem did, and that character did, was he got up on stage and he goes, here's who I am. This is what I'm about. And at the end, it was a mic drop. What can somebody else say about you that you haven't already said about yourself? And I think that's so important. That way, all of that noise goes away. And connecting, like my colleagues have said, connect with your community, know who your base is, find what we have in common. And it doesn't have to be our own culture. It's all different groups of people. Because when you meet with people individually, party doesn't matter. It's who we are as individuals. And then you'll find that we have so many more things in common than we do different. But I think one of the things that I did is just become proactive and write. I've written, in the year and a half that I've been on the board, I've written about 5 op-eds that are directed to education. And that way, and the responses I found is so funny. The responses come out online, and there are people arguing against each other because you're getting people to talk. And I think that's so important. And then your voice is out there. Thank you. That was long-winded.
No, Honorable Petero, I want to add something that you said. Owning it. I feel like nowadays people get too passive in not wanting to take a stance on hard-pressed issues, and it works against us a lot of the times. And I believe what you say, like, if you're gonna choose, your side, stick to it, like make your case, because nowadays I feel like a lot of the times people are too afraid to say what they really, what they really believe or what they want to commit to. And oftentimes it drags out conversations that don't need to take years for a response. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that we're seeing a lot of similar themes here. We're only on the second question, but it all comes back to the why and your support, and and going back to that, creating and controlling your narrative. That is so important in, connecting with the why it's important for you to run for office, why it's important to have women who are part of the ANHPI community to be in elected seats, because, we have to create the narrative of what's important for us, and we have to be our own advocates. So, so thank you for sharing those wisdom. And so we'll switch to the last question I have prepared today before we move on to the audience Q&A. So next I want to go over, and I think some of you have already touched on this already, but what unique challenges do you face as Pacific Islander women in leadership, and what are kind of your ways of dealing with those challenges in your positions? So Manufou, can we start with you?
Sure. I love hearing ownership. I think we have to own our stories. I think as Pasefika women, culturally, we're very passive because our role is to support, a very male-dominated culture. Like as a Samoan woman, men they are the chiefs, generally speaking. But this past July, I took on my mom's title and I became a chief, a high chief in her family. And that's a rarity in our spaces because this culture is just like very male driven. That's the seat of leadership that we're accustomed to. But when we speak to the ownership of our stories, that's a whole nother dimension that is fairly new to our community. We're in this space of being a public elected. We're tasked to step up and sing our own praises. It's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable because my experience in our cultures, we are servant leaders, which means we are immersed and entrenched in the work, which keeps us on the ground. But in this space, we have to tell our story at the top of the mountain because that is the system. I will tell you that has been very challenging for me. But what I try to remind others who look at opportunities to run is like, you are a storyteller. You come from storytellers. Tell your story. People need to hear it from you because no one else can tell your story like you. So that's that ownership piece that we need to develop and cultivate. The other barriers, this is new territory for us. People talk to you about, you're supposed to use a union printer. You are a validated candidate if you raise so much money. We run grassroots campaigns because that's where we come from. We know our families are trying to put food on the table. They support us through prayer. And then they said, but you've got to ask people for $500. But we have done it well, where we have reinvented as Pasefika women how we know to engage our people. And it's important that we own how we move and not let someone else dictate our journey. We need to be better at that. And so I will say those are experiences that I have faced. I have learned from them, but I have also been very, very firm in telling people to get out of my way, that I am trying to blaze a trail that is not like yours. So allow me the opportunity to tell my story.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm loving the emoji of hearts and just celebration. I'm loving this support coming from the participants. So so Anna or Mele, would you like to share your responses?
Mele, you want to go first?
Sure. I think for me personally, I think the two challenges that I came up like that were right in front of me is my age and the fact that I didn't go to Stanford. I don't know if that's a trend in your area, but if they hear that you're an elected official and you're from Stanford, you're qualified. That's what I get all the time. And so I had to work 10 times harder to make sure that I was the smartest person in the room and that I knew everything under the sun. Like it could be a random fact about weather and I knew it because I didn't want there to be an excuse for people to be like, oh, you don't know that. And that's something that I had a challenge with. But I am a natural nerd. I like to research. And so going into these spaces, I was always reading the packets. I was always reading, historical notes from the board meetings from years past so that I didn't need to spend that additional time asking staff for support. I could ask them about what we need to do to move forward. When it came to my age, I still struggle with that today. A lot of people don't take me as seriously because they don't really, because I'm young. I get that a lot, where they're just like, wait, you're a trustee, you're not a teacher? And I'm like, I'm a trustee. And then when they hear that I am the board president for the last 2 years, then it's also you're younger than half of our staff, and yet you're the board president. But I stepped into this role because we needed a Pacific Islander voice. I'm the first Tongan on the board. I'm the only Tongan that's ever sat on an elected board in the city of East Palo Alto. I think actually in the region. We did have a Samoan gentleman who was before me, but I was also the first PI president. And so getting into these seats and in these positions, I tell people all the time, like my job is to get through the door and hold the door open so that other PIs can walk through. I don't believe in holding onto this seat for too long. I believe in holding the seat long enough for a next PI to come up and take it, and then I can go do something else. And I've kind of done that with everything I do in life. I work for a really big social justice organization. I'm the only PI there, and I tell people all the time, I'm not going to be the only one. There's going to be more behind me. Just wait. And so I think for me, getting through the challenges were, you have to have a mind of selflessness. And like I said before, my family didn't sign up for this, so I do miss a lot of our family gatherings and our family times. But I realized that through this sacrifice that I'm doing right now, I'm helping a generation come up. And for me, it's worth it. And I know that, and I tell people this all the time. I'm like, I gave you my youth. So in a couple of years, when I want to get married and, settle down, like, don't hold it against me. But yeah, those are kind of the things. And, like Trustee Honorable Manufou said earlier with, owning it, I strongly believe in that. And I hope that, this time around in a couple of years, there's more than 3 of us here, right? There's more than 3 Pacific Islander leaders, and we have a larger forum with more people in these seats. It was really important when I first got on the board. I called Manufou because I didn't know what to do. I was sworn in, and then they also elected me. They also chose me to be the president. And I remembered blasting Manufou's phone and just saying, I don't know how to run a board, let alone a school district. I need help. And it took a lot to get there, because I was very friendly with Manufou, but we didn't have as strong of a relationship as we do now. And Manufou ushered me in those weeks. She told me, what to look out for. She had a meeting. She connected me with other PI, elected officials to help me, right? And because of that, I was able to be successful. And you can ask any member of our district. None of them would ever be like, she wasn't prepared. Doesn't seem that way. And that's because of, leaders like Honorable Anna and Honorable Manufou just being selfless and not being like, it has to be only me, right? They looked and they were like, we're going to feed into you. We're going to help you. We're going to make sure that you're successful. And so that's why I feel like, yes, we do have these challenges, but it's worth it if we can get one more person to the table, if we can get one more person into elected office, and they can be successful.
Wow, that was awesome. From that, I got just networking representation, right? I think that's so important. Imagine you're so fortunate to have, Trustee Anoa'i there to guide you through, and look at the 3 of us. There's so few of us, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges is representation. When Hillary Clinton ran for president both times, she didn't have, how many women were running for president of the United States at the time, besides Shirley Chisholm, right? She had to pull up her own chair, and she was critiqued and measured against all the men who had run before her, who had been presidents. Some of the challenges that we face and encounter is that most of the people who came before us didn't look like us, right? And then they weren't women, And then those women didn't look like us either. So I think the biggest challenge is representation and networking. But now that you are here, as Representative Latu said, when you reach back and we open the door and reach back and provide an avenue, a space for those of us and those who are coming up behind us. And I think that's so important. That is, I think, the biggest challenge is that we don't have role models to look to, like, what do we do as members of the board? What do we do as city council members? To represent everybody? Because we come from a completely different place, right? And I think, well, we find that the benefit that we have is to remind people in this country, our constituents and our community members, that this country is a collectivist country. As much as we want to say that we're individualist, our government is for, of, by the people. And if it's for the people, of the people, by the people, it means we are collectivist. And we have to participate in our democracy in order for our society to become better. We are more than anybody else know that that this is a country of immigrants. And our exceptionalism is our heterogeneity. It is our diversity. And who's more diverse than us? You know, and I think the benefits outweigh the challenges when it comes to being in public office. And I look and I say this from our perspective. We come from a different country, right? I'm a first generation American here. I think our colleagues may have been born here. I may be wrong, but look at the perspective that we come from, right? You look at Barack Obama, you look at Kamala Harris, they're first generation Americans. So we look at America from a completely different lens. And when we come here, Barack Obama said in 2004, only in America is my story possible. Well, only in America is our story possible because we come from a completely different lens and we see America as an opportunity for every single one of us. A lot of people who live here, who grew up here, who grew up in a system that is oppressive, are still asking permission to be here. We come from the perspective, I belong here just like everybody else. And I think that is a strength and that is the benefit of our voice being here, especially as women, especially as Pacific Islander women. In Tonga, we are also patriarchal, but we're also matrilineal. Right? We have something called the fahu. The fahu is the girl in the family, the oldest sister in the family, right? Who gets a lot of power. And so their voices are heard. And I think we're comfortable with that in the Tongan culture. And I think those of us here as women of Pacific Islander women, growing up and living in this country where we go, you have a voice and you get to use it. What did Malala say, right? You can use your voice, you know how to use it. And that I think is the benefit that we have because we have a completely different lens of looking at this country. Right? Because, you know, we can see the disparities in education. We have some background from elsewhere. We can say, here's how we can navigate through our society and make everybody better, not just some of us. And I think that's the benefit that we bring. So the challenges may be representation, but now we're here, right? There may be 3 of us here, but there's going to be more who come after us and who come with and who belong. You know, Ms. Anoa'i is hopefully is going to be in the city council. That's another step forward for our people. And that's another voice, another person who looks like us. If somebody from Jefferson Elementary School can look up there and go, she's my city council member and she looks like me. The Little Mermaid just came out, the most recent version, and the Little Mermaid is Black. When they did a showing with little Black girls, they go, she looks like me, right? That's the benefit that we bring as elected officials to these positions that we're running for, is that other people who look like us, little children, brown and Black children, and Asian Pacific Islander children will go, I can be that because she looks like me. All right. And I think that's so important. The challenges may be there, but I think the benefits outweigh. We focus on the benefits and that is our path forward because we belong here, right? And we belong here just as much as everybody else. And I think we need to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, going back to the point of being supportive of each other, I think it's so important that we're being each other's resources. And all of you touched on the importance of bringing in the next generation of people. It's never too early to start. You know, we can start them in high school and in college because, you know, it takes so much time to get to the point where they feel ready for that leadership position. I think, you know, back to what you all touched on the importance of the why and, you know, controlling your narrative. It's, you know, something that takes a long time to develop and, you know, and also creating that support network for yourself. So I'm really glad that you all touched on the importance of making sure that we're continuing on for the next generations to come to fill these leadership positions because people will feel more encouraged when they see more elected folks from, from our community. So so with that, I know we have about 10 minutes left. So I want to open it up to the audience for them to ask questions. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question to our panelists.
Hello, Danielle. Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Abdel, and I apologize that the camera is turned off, but thank you so much for all the inspiration that you're doing. As an immigrant, as a minority, as a woman, as a gender studies trainer, as an appointed member with the Executive County Office in Montgomery County, and as the founder of 2 businesses, I can tell that this meeting is exceptionally representing a lot of the issues that most of the women are facing, but actually is highlighting the fact that women's representation in public policy and in office needs to be focused on with more tangible actions for the issues that we are all facing. So I would like to ask on first, how can I help with my capacity of being connected to so many minority groups, immigrants, underserved communities, whom I can identify a lot of girls and teenagers and women who are trying to navigate, and connect to someone who can make it to office or has made it to office. Is there any kind of programs that you would like to promote? I have a mentorship program that's actually focusing on the Asian community, the African American community, immigrant communities in general, and underserved women communities, in order to connect women together to share experiences and resources. So let me know how can I help, and let me know what you have to promote so I can promote it for you. Thank you so much.
So if I understand the question correctly, I think there are 3 parts to that. So the first part is how organizations can work together, and Sarah, especially the one that you're a part of. The second part is how do you uplift younger women, AA and HPI women, especially teenagers. And then the third part is any programs that the panelists see value in promoting for our community. I think
Thank you. Yes, that's the great paraphrase. Yeah.
I could jump in. From my experience, New American Leaders, nonpartisan organization is amazing at building female leadership across the country. And I would encourage you, and offline, I can share this information as well. I'm in the Bay Area, so Emerge has been another organization that has served female leadership well, tapping into that organization. With regards to partnerships, I think that you've got a wealth of leaders here. I would think APAICS can also assist. I think putting what you do in front of the right people, that's where the networking piece comes in, is that if you tell us more about what you do, sharing your resources in our circles, I think that would be a great start. With regards to tapping into youth, I think the mentorship piece is key. I think Mele alluded and touched a little bit on that, but I think we are here not just as public servants, but as mentors to this work. And we want to be able to provide that. And I know I'm speaking from the heart and sharing that I see my colleagues' leadership. We are here to make sure that there are more individuals from our diverse communities. And that's where those mentorship opportunities come in. And I believe that they can come and shadow. And there's other opportunities where they can come and learn from our experiences, from personal interaction on that one-to-ones. And I would recommend those pathways for you to tap into. And APAICS runs several programs too that can support your ask.
I added the links to New American Leaders and Emerge California. So for those who are interested in looking into the different types of trainings that they offer, feel free to do so. And as Manufou mentioned, APAICS also provides different types of resources. We host our own campaign trainings. And so I encourage everyone to check out our website for different programs. Anna and Mele, did you have anything to add to Sarah's questions? Anyone else have questions? Oh, here we have a question here. Did you want to unmute yourself and introduce Elise?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, APAICS, for having this. I wish more, I'm going to cry. I'm glad I'm not on camera. I wish that more of our people were here, but I know that if it's possible, I'd like to share the recording because this was just so inspiring for me. I don't think I really considered running for office, maybe at the very local level, because nowhere that I've lived has ever felt like home enough for me to invest my time in it, except to belong to Pacific Islander people. So, but this has definitely made me think about roles that we play in just visibility of our people. So I just want to say thank you for having this office hour, and these wonderful leaders share their experiences. It's made me really think about how much I can invest in younger people and supporting them to be in these positions, since I probably would never run myself. But my question is, you know, I know there's a midterm election coming up. You know, being people that have to promote being elected and run campaigns, and I've been watching Manufou like do sign waving, and I want to drive out there one of these weekends just to like have a sign and stand on a corner and help support her. What are, oh gosh, now I've forgotten my question. I think my question is, oh, with the election coming up, what would you suggest? I know all of you have probably worked around engaging our people in voting, but are there new ways, being on the other side of having to be voted? Are there ideas that you would suggest for us that are a nonprofit helping to engage our people in the process? Are there ways that you see that we can help engage our people better in the process? Thank you.
I'll hop in. Thanks, Alici. I think one thing that I'm noticing, similar to Manufou, I'm also in an election year. We're kicking off this weekend. But one thing that I did notice was I'm going to the churches and to the Tongan market. I realized that I recently realized how powerful my mom really is, because my mom started Facebooking all of her aunties, and then I had about 30 sign requests from all these elders in the community. And, you know, the importance of having material that's in all the languages, especially in East Palo Alto, we try to make sure that everything's in English, Spanish, Tongan, Fijian, and Samoan. So engaging in the Pacific Islander languages, going to the churches, going to the youth groups, also just finding where, you know, with the PI community, I noticed that we are the lowest voting in the community. And I had to really break down what voting is and why it is such an important right that you have, right? And especially our young PIs who kind of, they don't feel that they need to, right? And having to talk through why it's important, right? Like I vote because I know that my vote doesn't only reflect myself, but it also reflects, you know, the fact that my parents came here to America, that my grandparents are also here in America, and that, you know, what they wanted when they grew up, or what they wanted to represent when they wanted elected officials, they couldn't have because they weren't American citizens, right? So I hold all these thoughts in my mind when I'm voting to make sure that my vote, it reflects not only my wants and needs, but also, you know, the network that got me here. But those are just some of the ideas that were on the top of my head.
I think it's a great idea. I think churches are really important. Our people are very religious, and many of them go to church. I think that's a great way to reach out to our people. Another thing is like with networking and knowing our community is understanding that many of us, a couple of generations before, didn't even think about college, right? Or even trade schools. And so their idea of living the American dream is, I get a job that pays this much money an hour, and our families work together to become successful. But they don't think that participating in one's democracy is part of our duty to become successful, you know, because that way you have a voice and you have your skin in the game, so to speak. So I think that's important, engaging our young people. And also when we talk to our elders, remind them that, because think about it, a lot of people come from other countries, haven't voted before. The first time I got to vote in this country was to vote for Barack Obama. And I didn't know, but I had the benefit of going to school in this country and understanding that there is a political process. A lot of our people don't know that. In 2018, half of the people in Vallejo, half of the Black people in Vallejo didn't even know there was an election. So some of us are not even informed that they can participate in the political process. So I think churches is a great place to meet people and to connect with our families and let them know that your voice is so important. What I do is engage the young people and tell them how important they are. And there's a Native American saying that says, listen to the elders, but follow the youth. And if you can follow the youth and encourage their ideas, as opposed to, you're too young, you have no experience, right? Our young people need to hear that. And I think, and they're a completely different generation of Pacific Islanders, like with all of our immigrants, right? You have the first generation that's still connected to their home country. And the next generation who was born here are a little bit more Americanized, so to speak. We have generations of Tongan, Samoan, Pacific Islander children who were born here, and America's the only country they know, but they're not taught that, hey, you get to participate because you belong here as well. So I think part of the ways in not only the churches, but we're all school board members. We can go to the schools when you visit, you know, talk to the young people about the importance of their voice and why they need to participate, because they have government classes in those schools. And then, and to encourage, like ethnic studies is now part of this California curriculum here in this country. So different school districts are starting to incorporate ethnic studies, and in doing that as well, encouraging our young people that you do have a voice, you can use that voice. And I think a lot of social media pages on Facebook, we have a lot of our community members there who are there, is just little things like say, hey, have you voted, or have you thought about this, or don't be afraid to bring up politics. People always talk about it. Don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics. Politics is so important in our country, because politics is us, you know, because if you don't know our politics, then we don't have a voice. It's the one thing that we have, that all of us are, that equalizes every single one of us, and that is our vote and our voice. Another thing that seems to hinder our community is the fact that we still have a lot of people who are undocumented. When they look at undocumented people, they think, oh, you must be from Mexico, right? Or you must be from somewhere. We don't look at Pacific Islanders, a lot of undocumented. We have a lot of seniors who live here who are undocumented, so they're afraid to come out and speak. But we can talk to their children and their grandchildren. So that's where we, I think, engage the young people in terms of, you get the advice from your elders, and then you participate and encourage them to participate. So I think the millennial generation, the Gen Z, Gen X generation of our island people need to know that they have a voice, because a lot of people don't, you know.
I want to jump in. I'm mindful of time, Danielle. Alisi, thank you for the question. I think what I heard too was you were asking, how is nonprofits, how can our nonprofit orgs help lift our not just our candidacy, but why they should be involved in voting. Tomorrow night, the League of Women Voters is convening this forum. This is the only opportunity in my race that people will have. That's my ask. You can convene, you can bring our community together as a sponsor, as a nonpartisan sponsor. You need to do better, not just you, I mean you, our community, at convening ourselves and making these spaces available. I think every opportunity I have to sit on a panel, I'm always talking about, we need to convene ourselves. And this is that opportunity. We need to make that space. We need to know that we can show up at our restaurants. Our restaurants can also be a space for fundraising, for convening, meet and greets, come and have a community conversation at Toke Moana Foods, at Kiss My Boba. Those are that's our people. That's where we need to show up at. And we need to be good and creative in making those asks. Like you said, how can you help? Let me tell you how you can help. Provide the platform. Provide the platform and we will come. So we're all still learning, we're all still navigating, but I would love to see us do that more and make the asks. I also I know we're 2 minutes out. I want to say that I love hearing that we're doing intentional work. I heard you raise this, Trustee Latu. We need to know when to make space and when to take space. I live by keeping the door open and the ladder down. It's so important that the ushering that I heard today continues, not just through us, but that we model it and teach others to do it, not in elected seat only, but as leaders, because leaders build communities. And we need to demonstrate it 24/7 and tap people where we see potential, where I see Trustee, Jasmine, Lisi, we have Sarah who's doing work and Karen who's joined us. We need to tap those folks who are sitting on their potential and push them through the door. They need that nudge. They need that nudge from us. So we need to learn when to vacate some of the seats that we sit in, but we need to tap into the wealth of talent and wisdom that we have in our communities to occupy those spaces that we are ready to vacate. So thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you so much, Danielle, for bringing us together today.
No, thank you so much for your wisdom. And I wish we had, 10 more hours to talk about this, but unfortunately we are at time. So, but I do want to give Anna and Mele to see if they have any last words that they would like to share. And I hope that this session changes Alici's mind about not running for office, because we need more Pacific Islander women running for office. So Mele, let's start with you for your final words.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. I keep wanting to say Manufou. That's like the direct thing, but I'm like, Honorable Manufou. Anytime Manufou asks me to speak on his panel or participate, I always say yes. Even if I'm on my deathbed, which I currently am, I will always say yes, because I know that this time is for someone else, right? And so I just want to say that if anyone needs encouragement, tap in. We will support you. If anyone needs direction or wants to maybe explore office, that's what we're here for. Being a person that was able to receive that love and support was so important. And so I also feel that we should turn around and make sure that other individuals in our community also has that support. And so if there's anyone on this call or anyone that sees this video that might be interested in office, you can always reach out to us. There's 3 of us here, but hopefully next time around there'll be way more. And I feel like with these representatives here, we're not the type that will just be islands. We want to create collective branches to really reach out and grow. And so I really encourage everyone. And thank you to my honorable trustees for sharing space. I'm always encouraged whenever I listen to you all, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It was a great pleasure and an honor for me to be here. I look forward to supporting Alici's campaign in 5 years. And while we're here in the space and we're talking about running for elected office, and those of us who are in elected office, I think this is a great opportunity to show up tomorrow afternoon at the Daly City Council building to support one of our AAPI people. And everywhere wear orange, bring signs. And this is how we get our voice out there and support, and then take pictures and put it out there on social media. There you go. That's what we can do to support. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much again for everyone for joining. And again, there will be a recording of this session on our YouTube page. So please feel free to share it around. And even though our conversation ends here, the conversation about supporting each other, uplifting each other's voices does not end here. So I hope that everyone found this very useful, and I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you so much. Take care.